Hello, my name is Dominic Underhallhouse and welcome to another episode of Moonbreaker. In today's episode, we're going to be trying something that I'd forgotten was even a feature, and I've seen someone on Discord mention this recently, and I want to give it a go myself. So, one of the things that we're going to be doing is we're going to be playing some PvP games, but we're going to create a new roster, and what we're going to do is we're going to autofill. So, there's a few different things that we can consider doing with this. What I'm going to do first of all is just to autofill completely, and just click the button and see what we get. So this is likely to be a random selection of units. I'm not sure what the logic is behind it, but I think it's a pretty reasonable way of at least getting something interesting. So I think we've got something really interesting here actually already, in the fact that we've got Antios, Gauntlet and Drumdancer Tlalli who work well together. They also work well with Extilior, so as in Drumdancer Tlalli and Extilior does help a bit as well. We've got Quetzalli that works well with Extilior, and Crankbait, and personally I like Tona, Mystic, Manteo with Extilior as well. So this should be quite an interesting one. I think this is that's Axl Pyro behind there, and we've got Toxoid over on this side, and we're finishing it off with Aria. So I think the worst unit here is probably Aria, but let's go autofill 1, and to finish it off, just to make it completely fair, we'll randomise the banner as well. Let's just jump into some games. So I don't think this looks too terrible. Hopefully we won't come against too many hyper competitive opponents, but even if we do, let's just have fun with something a little bit different. So autofill number 1, and let's just jump in and play a few games. So the good thing about this is there's no real thinking power required. We can just jump in and just immediately try something out, regardless of whether we think it's going to be good, whether we think it's going to be bad. It's not our choice. We just have to do the best with what we've got. And also, one of the things you may not have seen it, but you may have done, is I'm still really happy with the Extilior paint job I've been working on as well. Okay, so here, with our unit, so Corrosive could be fairly decent for an aggressive start. Stun and Orbital are nice. Medical Recall could be okay. I think Medical Recall and Corrosive is what we're going to do here. Yeah, this is my my Pride Extilior that I've been working on, so really happy with how it's coming so far. Looking forward to putting a bit more work on that as well. Okay, so there's no real reason here not to just start deploying things out turn 1, unless we wanted to go for a turn 2 one of these units. And honestly, I think we probably do, because these two don't want to be up close and personal with Extilior until we can use their abilities. So honestly, I think we're probably just waiting and plopping down either an Aria, or even maybe a Crankbait. So this is probably Maximus. Oh, it's Antios. Okay. So we are currently on basically playing against a level 1 opponent, but there's a reasonable chance that I thought they would have been playing the sort of the standard list, the sort of nuts and bolts Extilior list. But this actually looks slightly different. So maybe they've gone for a sort of melee focus list. But the reason I've gone for Aria is I feel like she helps us apply some range pressure, and then we can sort of move up and get some use out of things in that respect. So we're still going to be just out of range with Extilior here, but what I think I'm going to do is try and move in here, place Drumdancer Tlalli and Antios Gauntlet just off to the side. Oh, that's interesting.
This mask really draws the eye.
Okay, so that's currently a 0% chance to hit. I think what we need to do is try and work on hitting Torian. So what I'm actually going to do here is I'm only going to deploy one drop.
Okay, sure.
I'm going to use Stillness to give Aria extra accuracy and just try and work on Torian. So we can't quite get in range, but I'm going to move up here, and then as a sort of a follow-up, I'm either going to play Antios Gauntlet or Drumdancer Tlalli. I think Antios does better work on his own, so we'll pop him just over here. There we go.
A fist on the horizon.
Right, let's see how this goes. Interesting. For some reason the enter key didn't work to end turn there. So what we... Oh, that's awkward. So that's obviously a misclick from our opponent. They've just gone and spent 2 Cinder for no real effect. I think they were probably trying to escape hatch. Okay, so they've got Quetzalli, so they can move a lot, they can get their attacks in, but they're also stuck behind it as well, so that's pretty unfortunate there. They might be able to get... Oh, they can't even quite get into range of Antios here. So depending on where they move, we might be able to get in range with our Antios next turn, which is going to be part of the game plan. We do need to basically use 2 of us into here to probably take out Torian Guardian. So if we can get our Extilior into range of both of these, that would be perfect. Or even if we just get a hit here. Yeah, getting that hit's perfect. So this could be I'm trying to think what it could be. Probably orbital maybe? Or... Okay, so we've not gone with anything there. So we can't get both into range. But what we can do is use all of our Cinder this turn. Not use... Yeah, we're not going to deploy anything here. But we can use all of our Cinder to take out both Torian and Antios Gauntlet. Which, personally, I think is a really worthwhile option there. So, 100% chance to hit there. Getting that crit is big as well. But it's not actually... No, it's not big at all. It didn't help that much because we're so close. In fact, actually... It means we can Sword of Justice here. We can just move in here and get a hit. It means we don't have to then use our 2 Cinder immediately. So we can actually play Drumdancer Tlalli over here. And get a bit of use out of that as well. So yeah, that crit did matter. So we're doing quite well here. Again, it's only a level 1 opponent. So this isn't a particularly fair assessment. But it's interesting trying to come up with sort of... game plans with a list that doesn't really have a strategy. So thank you to whoever it was that was mentioning the Discord. I think it might have been Ziggy Zack, but I'm not quite sure. One of the things that this is also good for, excuse me, I'm just accidentally nudging my mouse while I get a coffee, is leveling up to get character portraits for characters you don't use very often. Okay, so our opponent's going to concede there. I think that's reasonable. We're in a really good spot. And I think, you know, with them only having Quetzalli and not really being near it, it didn't really add much value to their battlefield there. So, one more win with Quetzalli, or one more game in fact with Quetzalli gets us the Quetzalli portrait. How are we looking here? Aria's obviously nowhere near, neither's Tona. Crankbait's part of the way there. I can't believe we're this far behind with Antios Gauntlet. I thought he'd be up there. So yeah, we've got a few portraits we could potentially unlock with this list. There's actually quite a few I haven't got already, so if you don't know, you unlock portraits when you get to level 3 with a character, and I've got 20 portraits that I haven't currently unlocked. So some of these I was kind of like not fully surprised, but a bit surprised. So Extilior himself, I thought I'd be much closer with Extilior, and yeah, that did take me by surprise a little bit. But other than that, most of these, I mean, Chuck and Co I do use sometimes, but I tend to use Shrapnel instead. So yeah, not too surprised other than basically Antios Gauntlet there was one that I thought I'd have used more often. And Quetzalli, in fact. Anyway, that was a good start. Let's jump in and try another game with our auto-filled list. I think this is quite an interesting concept. It could even be something that you do for like an auto-fill tournament. I'd love to actually... Yeah, if the player base gets large enough, I'd love to host like an auto-fill tournament where you just, on camera, or you know, or even we do it for them, just generate a list for each player, and they have to enter the tournament with that list to see how well they do. I think that would be great fun.
Death has arrived.
Okay, so against another Extilior. It might be the same person. No movement assist again, so we'll go for Plink and Corrosive. Yeah, so it's the same person, but hey, they leveled up since last game, so well done to them. Excellent news. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to wait and play our Aria out. Hopefully they have a bit of a better start, because we don't want to just sort of put our opponent off of the game. I'm glad I'm playing this rather than like a hyper-competitive list. Okay, so that's their Antios. So again, we're going to pop Aria back here, and we're going to check where Antios can move to, and we're going to move slightly short of that. And then next turn we can potentially deal a lot of damage, so we can do, what, 3, 4, 5 at least. Here comes the second wind. They haven't quite got enough for Quetzalli, so they can play a 4-drop here. We've got, ooh, Tipu. Now, can we get... I can't quite tell if we get in melee range of Tipu here. So I think whatever we do, yeah, we can. So we're going to work on taking out Tipu here, because if we Corrosive, we've got 4... and then 7, so we can do Corrosive on Tipu. We're going to save 1 Cinder or just play out one of our other 1-drops again. So I'm going to move here, make sure it wasn't auto-attacking. Sword of Justice first to deal 4. Standard attack for 3. We'll move, so where does Antios move to? Just about there, so we'll move to here. We'll get this shot off hopefully. We did, we can Plink that. And then what I think we actually do here is check where that can move to, and maybe just deploy our own Antios Gauntlet just back here. So the only reason we moved Aria this close was to make sure we got the guarantee, well, not guaranteed, but a higher chance of hit. If you look, oh, it's just faded away then. The fish that was there was a boomerang from Subnautica. I love that about Plink. So again, we've got ourselves in a really solid ball position. We've kept just out of range of things, which is exactly what we want to do. So for instance with Aria, if they move up trying to get aggressive onto Aria, we get an almost 100% guaranteed shot. And on top of that we can just Plink for the finish. Okay, Orbital's reasonable. We can absolutely get out of range of that unless they find a way to block us in. Which I don't think is possible because we can just move down this way. So I think next turn we're probably going to be starting to go aggressive. Okay, they're going for the run and hide approach, which I wasn't saying that in terms of a critical thing. I think that's the right approach here. Now, where are they going to deploy their next unit? Okay, scattervine there, so that I will admit I do think is potentially a mistake. Because we're just going to move here. Sword of Justice both of these. We can get out of range here. What I'm going to try and do is, because it's a newer opponent and I just want to sort of try and be aggressive as well, I'm going to just keep not spending, not like deploying units unless I need to. Okay, we did miss that. Because I think here, one of the things I don't do often enough with Extilior is use his abilities. So trying to make sure that I can use them efficiently is going to be a good thing to do. So here they can kill our Antios Gauntlet, which is probably the right thing to do. But if they do so, then there's a good chance that we kill theirs in the backswing.
You are a distraction.
Okay, they take the one back, yeah. Now what I do here if I were them is move away, and probably, actually I don't know. Because maybe they need to move in with their Antios and activate, but then they've only got one Cinder left. So I think that's kind of a difficult spot for them to put themselves in as well. And if they don't activate, then they're just going to take one back and then they're just going to die next turn. Okay. Oh, they've got Plink as well? Yeah, okay, that works. Perfectly happy with that. Question is my Sword of Justice in range? Not quite.
Not a fighter.
That is wise.
So what we're going to do here is probably just attack, move, and then Sword of Justice. Ooh, interesting. Okay, so we could also just Aria and try and crit here. I think we need to get more bodies on the battlefield here, so what's our chance here? 73. So we know that here we can take everything out. Oh, we can't get there though. So we actually have to just leave Blindside Arresty this time, I think. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go face, I think. Oh, getting that crit matters a lot, actually. We can move here in Sword of Justice. We'll get Aria in over here to just take a shot. Yeah, we'll plink them down to 1. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place... Let's place Axl Pyro over here. Axl Pyro is something that they can't quite kill in one hit without a crit. It's good into their board in general, and they won't be able to run away from them without going down this way. And if they're doing that, they're probably just going to die to these 2 units. So, again, this is going to have to be a heal. And what they're doing is essentially, because they're in such low health, they're forcing themselves to spend 2 Cinder every turn, because they have to stay out of melee range of our Extilior every single time, or they're in a lot of trouble. So this, I think, is just lethal for them. They're going to die if they do that. Unless they've got something else with their Cinder, but I can't quite see how they do it. They could Plink to gain another health, that would work. Okay, so they just look like they're going to just go and try and take as much damage off of us as possible. Okay, no, they're going here. They were just short of being able to move into range there. So that's kind of unfortunate for them. So now we're just going to pop into Corrosive their captain. Get a little Fire Flamer going here to deal 3. And we'll just Sword of Justice for the win. Perfect. So again, I want to say, good job to Liquid there. I think they actually noticeably improved between the first and second game. Like their decision making seemed a lot more on point. It had better sort of back attack, that sort of thing. There was more sort of reasonable decision making there, so I'm quite happy with how that went for them. I'm glad that they seem to have sort of, because they might not have seen a list like ours before. I certainly haven't. So having sort of seen how it works, getting used to it, that's a really nice thing to see, and see that they're playstyle changed and adapted from there as well. So, as is tradition, we've unlocked a new portrait. We're putting Quetzalli the potato up here, and we are going to jump straight into our next game with this list. I was about to say last game, but depending on how long they last, we might actually be able to get 2 more in. And yeah, it's nice to have a bit of a consistency with video length, basically. I like to try and make it around half an hour. And, you know, I only stop if I don't think it's going to be a reasonable time to fit in. Are we against Liquid again? Ooh, okay, this is probably going to be... I'm going to guess with that. For some reason, when I see it at this time of day... I'm just going to quickly choose Disrupt a Lifeline. This time of day, yeah, I was going to say it's got to be Jester, because we're not playing early, you know, we're not playing late, we're playing about the time Jester streams on a regular basis, and we're playing a Zax with the Founders Pack skin without having any, what's it called, where's my thought process gone? Without a paint job. And that to me screams Jester. Right, so here we're just going to place Antios Gauntlet right in the middle. Make him as hard to hit as possible. So they're obviously going to come for us, that's just Jester's playstyle. There's no doubt in my mind we're going to lose this, but we're going to do the best that we can. If that other one had missed, that would have been good for us. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be over before it's even started, let's be honest. I don't feel like we're particularly going to have much of a bit of spare time here, so I'm expecting this to be a Deadeye because they're on the play. If they're on the draw, well, I say draw, if they're going second, then I'd expect it to be a Rickety Backfire, because that's Jester's, well, that's Jester's list of choice at the moment. But here I wouldn't be surprised to see them just play out a Deadeye. They can see 2 melee units versus 3 range units as it stands, and I think that's going to put them in really good stead versus us. I'm trying to think of what our best options for next turn would be. It's probably going to be Crankbait and Drumdancer Tlalli and just try and put as much pressure on as possible for the following turn. We'd only have 3 Cinder the following turn though, so we can't use both Tlalli and Antios. But Tlalli still provides 2 damage. So we've got to see how this goes. We may even be able to move ourselves into a position where we can block Maximus against the wall. Yeah, so there's Rickety. That's exactly what we expected, so... The question is, I mean, with Rickety being airborne, there's not even anything much we can do. Like, the only thing I can even consider is just knocking them back a bunch, and that's not going to do anything particularly useful because a Quetzalli thing is big enough. So what if we try to do that though? Well, if we move back here, maybe we shouldn't have placed this up here. We'll knock them in varying directions, just try and make distance as big as possible. And we'll play ourselves a couple of units down here that will help protect us. So we use this to block over here, and Drumdancer Tlalli can just pop into this little smoke section as well. And we'll see how this goes. Like, I don't think this is going to work. This is more experimentation for me than actual planned gameplay. I'm curious as to how far Quetzalli can get Rickety into range from. First, I'm going to compliment them. Missing dialogue compliment. I like Jester. Jester seems like a very good player. I think it's interesting because I think Jester's a good player. They've got a very good mechanical understanding of the game, and like one of the better players I've come across. But the other side of things is I think we both disagree quite significantly on what we think makes the game the most fun. So it's really interesting to have those discussions because I think we just come from very different standpoints in terms of what our mindset is on these things, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, like I say, my opinions aren't more valid than anyone else's, and yeah, Jester's got some very strong opinions and they're very different to mine, but it is what it is. Can't be too worried about that. Okay, so with this moving over here, I imagine Rickety moves back to this direction, but what we can do now is we can try and put damage onto Quetzalli. Okay, Ion Storm's brutal here. That's probably going to be the nail in the coffin for us, because we don't have enough damage to deal with Quetzalli if we can't get it near to us, especially if it looks like it doesn't actually fit through that gap either. So yeah, I don't know how we're going to compete here, but we've got to try. The other option is, can we get like a line of sight onto Rickety at all, but that's a no as well, so
Awaiting directive.
Extilior just needs to move like down here somewhere. Where can we get Crankbait? So if we go about here, we can try and just pull Deadeye in. I think that's probably our best bet here. So if we just go here and pull Deadeye towards us, we can go for the damage that we need.
Your adrenaline roars.
I mean, this is only 35% to hit, which is really difficult. I mean, yeah, this is pointless. This is utterly pointless. We'll just pop over here and take some damage off the Quetzalli. There we go. I don't see a world in which we can survive this. They can easily just get 6 damage up onto us there. We missed everything that was relevant. Like I said, I didn't expect to win this, but it was interesting to try something a little bit different. Like, Crankbait may be okay into this, but the issue is that usually Rickety can just move into range of Quetzalli and just go straight into there. How come that little icon's shining? Is that a thing that... Do they all do that, or is that just when you get to a certain level? Oh, it's going to be when you get into a certain rank. Mine don't shine at all, because I haven't played anywhere near as many games as Jester does. Yeah. Okay, so it's nice to know that not everything is able to just run straight at us this turn. But with an auto-filled list, there's no world in which this is going to go well. If I were Jester, I'd be moving over here, attacking this way, dealing as much damage to these as possible. Crankbait was the interesting choice there for me. Like, I think they probably have got enough damage to deal with all of us, but I'd have probably just gone face. Taking Extilior down to 8 seems really reasonable. Okay, they get the hit through the smoke. So again, this is going to be a really difficult spot to try and come back from, but we'll just do the best we can. At least we can try and slap Rickety a little bit and not take all of that damage next turn, but we're going to take loads this turn. Still loads next turn, but not as much as it could otherwise be. So, we're going to go for this, because this makes sense. The question is, what do we want to do with our Cinder? I'm, like, obviously in my mind, Axl Pyro and Aria seem like the only 2 real choices. But I'm really tempted by Tona. I think we're going to do this to scatter things as far away as they can get. And like, you just make it a little bit more difficult for things to get in range. So we've got 6 Cinder. I mean, we could try and move into position. Can we not actually even grappling chain this? Yeah, we can. Let's just see what we can do with Vital here. If we get a crit... No, the crit didn't work, so now we're going to kill our own unit if we want to do what we were trying to, which is a shame. So what if we needed to spend 3, we then can't play anything else out. Let's just play... Let's just play Axl Pyro over here.
What do you want to fire?
And Shield of Hope at this point, probably Axl. I don't think that's the right choice. I think maybe it should have been shielding ourselves, but I think Axl gives us a chance versus these things. And if they miss... Oh no, because they can get into Vital range here. Like, we wanted to try and kill Vital, so if we'd have got a crit... I don't think we were likely to, obviously I wasn't playing on the, oh, we're guaranteed to get a crit plan. But I thought, you know, if we can get a crit, then maybe that gives us the option to use Extilior, wipe our Crankbait out, but takes out Vital as well. Yeah, like, this is mad. So they're dealing 5 here. Can they get Vital in range? Maybe they can. They're going to go for... Yeah, so... Next turn having 6 Cinder is going to have to be the start of our Tona Mystic Manteo, but I don't think it's going to be enough. We need to get one more turn to get our lifeline active, is the issue. I mean, we could potentially kill something. We're just hoping for bad lines of sight. Oh, that crit probably ends it here. Oh, it wasn't in range of Vital. Oh, it's slightly short. I mean, with Deadeye, yeah, this is almost guaranteed. Yeah, there we go. But that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I'll be honest, I was expecting a much more quick defeat. I wasn't thinking anything like that would come across. And you know what? I think that was a really good game to end on. It was a difficult one. We had to try and come against probably the most meta list going, against one of the better players in the current community, and I think we held our own reasonably well. I think Crankbait felt good in that game, which is weird because Crankbait doesn't usually feel good at all. I feel like if I had a little bit more damage to go alongside her, so something like if we had the Maximus or something like that, Crankbait could have actually been quite useful there. So I'm going to have to consider that for future. I liked how it played, but it wasn't the most it wasn't the most competitive list, but I had a lot of fun trying something a little bit different. So if you didn't see already, this is the list that we played out. We didn't get to make much use out of any of these three here whatsoever, because the game just didn't go long enough to do so. Toxoid's very fragile, so had to be very careful with that. But I quite liked some of the other synergies. It was a lot of fun. So hopefully you guys can maybe even try the same sort of thing. If you'd be interested in us setting up maybe a sort of a small tournament or a league using randomly generated lists, I think that would be a lot of fun. And we could see if people want to get involved and just like schedule games throughout the course of a week and see if we can have a bit of fun with it. I think that would be a great idea. So let me know in the comments if that's something you'd be interested in. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe, it's the best way you can support the channel at the moment, and other than that, have a good day.